Alright, so I'm trying not to get too knee-jerky with this video, but I can't help myself. It's just too exciting for me. Game week 2 is nearly upon us, and here are some players I suggest you should buy and avoid. Now, first up, I want to talk to the 39.6% of FPL players who don't currently have this man in their team. What are you doing, mate? The reason I say that is he's been underpriced by a big load in FPL this season. It's ridiculous, really. I think he could be 10.5 million and still be a good option in the game. Like, he's by far and away, in my opinion at least, the best Arsenal attacker to have. He's going to play the most minutes. There's no competition for his position. And in my opinion, he's the best player in that Arsenal team. He played the full game against Forest. Obviously scored a fantastic goal. He's got fantastic fixtures coming up as well. I'm saying fantastic a lot, but you know, that's what he deserves, really. Palace away, Fulham at home. You could expect goals in both those games, in my opinion. Even Man United at home, right? They had the most clean sheets in the league last year, but they definitely dropped off away from home compared to what they were like at Old Trafford. So definitely goals in that game. Everton away, don't really need to say any more about Everton. And Spurs at home as well. Spurs, they'll probably score against Arsenal. They look really attacking, but obviously that's to the detriment of their defence. So in my opinion, like all of those 5 fixtures coming up, you could foresee a Saka goal in. And I think if Jorginho is on the pitch, Jorginho will take the penalties, but he's not a starter for Arsenal. So you've got to think that Saka is safe and nailed to take the penalties too. Now, I'm trying not to get too carried away with this man because he has just played one game and scored, but you've got to look back at his stats last season as well. He scored 6 goals in the final 4 games of Forest's season last year and basically kept them up with his goals. Got 0.71 expected returns per 90. If you look back to that little Saka segment I did, he had 0.5 expected returns per 90. So for underlying numbers, Awoniyi is better than Saka. Well, based on his last season's stats anyway. And you've got to think with his performance against Arsenal, personally, I couldn't believe that he didn't start the game. With his performance against Arsenal, like he's got to be playing in that team the next game, right? Against Sheffield United at home, a fantastic fixture. You've got to think he's going to start. And they have a tough run, don't get me wrong. They got Man United away, Chelsea away, Burnley at home, and then Man City away. They're tough games, don't get me wrong. But he did score against good opposition last season. And obviously got a goal away at Arsenal, team that placed second in the league last year just now. So I think he's a great option. Seems reasonably fixture-proof. And for 6.5 million, I think he's going to be great value. And I'm sure he'll be one of the players, in my opinion, that rises the most in price throughout the season. If he continues playing at the level that he did towards the end of last season, he's been underpriced by, I would say, a couple million. Okay, Klaxons out, please, because we've got a 4 million starting goalkeeping pairing. Areola and Turner from Nottingham Forest. Now, don't get me wrong, there's risks and a little bit of uncertainty about them. The fact that Areola's replaced Fabianski, who's obviously still in the West Ham team in the squad. So if Areola has a couple bad run of games or whatever, Fabianski could take his place. And as for Turner, Forest have always been in the market for another goalkeeper as well. So there is obviously a risk they get a goalkeeper that could displace him. But as it stands, you know, we've got 2 goalkeepers starting that could be 4 million. Now, I'm not saying buy them in game week 2 or anything like that straight away. But what I am saying is it's a viable option now, in my opinion. And I'm not sure these 2 teams are going to keep a boatload of clean sheets, but they don't need to. I think both of these goalkeepers have got potential for saves bonus pretty much every game. And for me, when looking at an FPL goalkeeper, you know, obviously Ederson kept his clean sheet this week, but he's 5.5 million. And I think a goalkeeper that consistently makes saves across a season rather than one that consistently keeps clean sheets, probably going to outscore them, like David Raya last season being one of the best goalkeepers in the game. He didn't do it because he kept loads and loads of clean sheets. He obviously kept a few, but he made the most saves, and that's how he got his points. So these 2 goalkeepers, I think, can be viable options, particularly after game week 6, when the fixtures improve and they rotate with one another a little bit better. Diaby looked absolutely fantastic for Villa against Newcastle. I know they got blown away 5-1, but he looks so dangerous. And he was playing up front alongside Ollie Watkins. And I'd actually suggest after watching the game, he was playing in a more advanced position than Ollie Watkins, their centre forward, was. Looks absolutely ridiculous, like running in behind the defence. He's so quick. I don't think there are many defenders that will be able to handle him in that pace. And yeah, Newcastle in general were one of the best defences in the league last season. We all know that. But he looked fantastic against them. He really caused them problems, even though, like I said, they lost 5-1. He had a couple other chances to either create a goal or score himself as well. Looking at the Bundesliga last year, obviously there's a bit of Premier League tax in that, so his returns could drop off. He did have a fantastic season. And for me, I'm not saying he's my favourite of the 6.5 million mids. I think that still falls to Mbumo. But of Matoma, Eze, the other 6.5 million options, and March, of course, that did play at the weekend, Diaby looked the most dangerous in my opinion. He had my favourite performance, and I know they lost against Newcastle, but their upcoming fixtures are really good. And I know they've got Liverpool away mixed in there, but Liverpool look all over the place defensively, and I really do think running in behind their defence, he could cause them some real problems. We all look back to a few seasons ago when Villa absolutely blew Liverpool away. I think they won that game 6-2, something like that. There could be a repeat of that this season with the way they're playing. You know, Watkins and Diaby both stretching their defence and running in behind. I wouldn't let that fixture put me off. So in my opinion, they've got 4 really strong fixtures coming up, and I think he's a great option. Now again, try not to get too knee-jerky, so I'm not going to get carried away with this recommendation, because to be honest, I spoke about him in pre-season as well. I think Jarrod Bowen is going to have a really good season again. And looking back at the 21-22 stats that he had, I'm not going to review last season because I think that was a blip in terms of Bowen's career, really. I think he's going to return similar levels to that this season. 12 goals, 10 assists for 7 million. If you got that level of returns, I think you'd be very, very happy. Yeah, he had a fantastic pre-season. I think across all of the Premier League players, he got the most attacking returns throughout pre-season, and obviously got the goal against Bournemouth as well. Who's going to be that penalty taker for West Ham, in my opinion, when Ben Rama's not on the pitch is a bit of a question. Bowen was the penalty taker of the 21-22 season, I believe, and I just got a feeling he could get them back. I just get talisman-like vibes and feelings from Bowen. I just think he's going to have a really good season, and he plays every game as well. Last season, I'm looking at the 21-22 stats here. Last season, he played in every Premier League fixture that West Ham had, including, obviously, the fact that they were in Europe as well. That didn't really stop Moyes from starting Jarrod Bowen. And yeah, maybe the fixture run could put you off, and I can't argue against the fact that Chelsea, Brighton, Man City, Liverpool in the next, 5 game weeks is absolutely terrible. I think after game week 6, he becomes a real option. One point I would say, though, I genuinely think that West Ham, they almost play better against the teams that keep possession, which Chelsea, Brighton, Man City, Liverpool will do. They allow West Ham to sit back, soak up the pressure, and hit them on the counter-attack, and I think that's where Bowen comes in really handy. So whilst they are tough fixtures, I think they're ones that Bowen could do quite well in. And there weren't a whole lot of players to avoid, so it's slim pickings really, but I really did not like the look of the Aston Villa defence against Newcastle, not just because of the fact they conceded 5 goals, but just the fact that they were trying to play out from the back and got really found out. Newcastle pressing them up high gave them some real problems, and I don't think the Villa defence, with the exception maybe of Pau Torres, but he didn't look that great either, I don't think they're suited to playing out from the back and playing such a high line like they did. So whilst I think Watkins and Diaby are great options going forward, I don't think defensively Villa are going to be very good. And obviously Tyrone Mings left the field with what looked like quite a serious injury. That's going to be absolutely terrible, not only for obviously him, but Villa as well. I think he was a real leader in that defence, telling each defender where to be on set pieces and positional play and offside lines, etc. Without him, I think they're really going to struggle. So Villa defence, they might be some of them are obviously 4.5 million. And before the season started, I think a few of us suggested they'd probably be some of the best 4.5 million defenders in the game. But having saw how they played against Newcastle, I'm not convinced at all. Now, I'm not going to talk through this list in great detail, but I thought I'd end the video just by, it's a video about recommending players to buy. Here are the top players for any position for expected points over the next 3 game weeks. No surprise, Haaland's at top. Saka second. I just can't believe a player that ranks second for expected points is 8.5 million. It's the same with Martinelli, really. I think they could have priced Martinelli higher as well. Martinelli could have been 9 million. Saka could have been in the 10s, really. I just think they're ridiculously cheap. And they're better. They got better expected points than 12.5 million Mo Salah has. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you don't have these Arsenal mids already, I think they're going to be absolutely fantastic throughout the season. And yeah, you can take a look at the rest of the players yourself, really. I'm not going to go through this in great detail. You can pause the video, have a look for yourself, and thank you to DraftHound for the stats. Alright, and that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. If you did, and you're as excited for me for Game Week 2, then please leave a like rating on the video and subscribe to the Golden Goal channel just here, and I'll be back again this week with another couple of videos.